Shai again, sizing up Murphy. Drives, floats, hangs, and scores on the turnaround. J-Dub way behind the three-point line and hits way behind the three-point line. Got blocked. What a rejection by Holmgren. Standing tall like a wall.
This is Lu Dort. You're listening to the Uncontested.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Uncontested. I am your host for tonight, Justin, joined by Nick.
Hello. The chat is already asking, is the reason we're late because of Taylor? As you can see, Taylor is not here, but we can still blame him.
Yes, yeah.
We can still blame him.
Nick and I, two-man game, running it back as the Thunder dominate the fourth quarter and the third quarter against the Boston Celtics to win in dramatic fashion, to win their 15th straight. We have a lot to talk about. Before we do that, I want to let you know that we are proudly part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and brought to you by Prairie Artisan Ales. Make sure you go follow us wherever you get your socials, subscribe wherever you get your podcast content. And if you haven't yet, go hit the Patreon in the link on this episode, QR code on the top of the screen if you're tuned into the stream right now. The degenerates in the Discord today during that wild win were having a blast, as they always are. A lot of them in the chat right now. Going to be a fun one. So, Nick, I don't want to beat around the bush.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City comes back from a double-digit deficit, stop me if you've heard that before, to beat the Boston Celtics this afternoon in Oklahoma City. A huge marquee matchup, one that we've had circled on our calendar for a long time. Oklahoma City wins 105-92 after trailing by 10 at halftime, and honestly looking like, once again, it may not be their day. So, initial big takeaways, Nick, kind of after going through that experience, where's your head at coming out of OKC Boston?
Yeah, a couple other stats just to throw out. Time leading the game. Boston led for 29 minutes and 16 seconds. OKC was winning for 13 minutes and 41 seconds. I believe, I don't know why I can't find the largest lead. I believe the largest lead for the Celtics, here it is, 13. And Oklahoma City ultimately won by 13. That's a 26-point swing. Again, like you just said, like, stop me if you've heard that before. These last few games have really been the same exact script.
Yes.
The difference is like the competition's incrementally increased. You do that against the Clippers where you come out slow, you dig yourselves in a hole, you have a phenomenal third quarter, you dominate the fourth quarter defense, the intensity goes up. Like that was the story in the Clippers. Then to do it against the Knicks was like, okay, like, and there's a fully healthy Knicks. Jalen Brunson entering the game, may not have played. He did play. You did it against the Knicks. Then you play the Celtics, and you're down 13 in the first half, and you're like, guys, you can't do this against the Celtics. They did it against the Celtics.
It's nuts, man.
Is that the way you probably want to win your games? No.
No.
Because that's not super sustainable. But I think it says a lot about the resiliency. I think it says a lot about the ability to hit a new gear. I think it says a lot about Mark's halftime adjustments. And that's not just like I think a lot of times like a team will have a bad first half and a good second, and you give all the credit to the coach for the adjustments.
Right.
This has been a situation where like after every game, the opposing team's coach and the opposing team's players have talked about the things that were like fundamentally different in the second half.
Yep.
So maybe my biggest takeaway, obviously, like I'm not a huge fan of praising comeback wins because the only way you can come back is if you played like crap and got in a hole. But like Mark deserves a ton of credit, not just for the Celtics game, but for the last handful of games where these comeback wins have just been unreal.
Yep. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to bring that up as well. The adjustment and in style of play and even like personnel adjustments that were made in the last few games have been really, really impressive. And there was some good discussion in the Discord, another shameless plug, during the game about, it's interesting, both the Knicks and the Celtics games. This is the first time Oklahoma City has played those teams this season. The difference from first half to second half is exactly what you just said. I think there's a lot of adjustments happening. One that got kind of passed around NBA Twitter this afternoon was Daignault's quote about Jalen Brown. Jalen Brown, who had 21 points in the first half, goes scoreless in the second half. It was balling. Matched the eye test. Looked very, very good in the first half. In a game where you thought maybe he wouldn't play due to injury, he came out and was balling. Second half, nothing. Scoreless. They asked Daignault about it, and he said, we switched Lu onto him.
He had a second half that was so bad. The NBA Centel and the AI and the accounts were making memes about him laying bricks and stuff. It wasn't just like he had a poor second half. It was like, bro is non-existent. In fact, in the third quarter, I had to go pull the quarter by quarter stats to see if he was playing. Because I was like, is Jalen Brown?
Did he disappear?
It was that bad.
Yeah.
It was for Lu. I mean,
both probably, right? I think Mark was probably being tongue in cheek a little bit, but putting Lu on Jalen Brown is gonna have an impact, and it clearly did. But I think overall, the schematic adjustments, Oklahoma City, if they can make adjustments like that. We talk a lot about the difference between playoff basketball and regular season basketball. This is a very, very good sign to me as you look ahead to playoff basketball. If you're able to make adjustments like they're showing in albeit smaller sample sizes, right? Like a half is not the same as a 7-game series. But if you can come out of halftime and make those types of adjustments throughout the grind of an 82-game season and have nights, or I guess afternoons like this afternoon, that's a good sign. That Mark is going to be able to make adjustments throughout the course of a playoff series that could have similar results, right? We often talked about the game one of a playoff series being that kind of feel it out game. It feels like the Thunder the last few games have used the first half as their feel it out half, for better or for worse. And they've been able to come out with a handful of victories to keep this historic winning streak alive and sitting at 15 games. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. This team just continues to find a way to win. I think for me, what I wanted to talk about next, one of my big takeaways was the ability to make plays down the stretch. Friday night, it was Aaron Wiggins, and it was phenomenal. Like a blast to watch him drop in 15 points in the fourth quarter. Phenomenal play from Aaron Wiggins. Today, Lu Dort played the role of Aaron Wiggins in the fourth quarter. After not starting the game well shooting, I think he was 0 of 5. Yeah. 0 of 5 shooting from behind the arc to begin. Puts in a bunch of big threes in the fourth quarter, combined with maybe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's MVP moment of, or at least one of them up to this point. The chase down block on Jason Tatum, reminiscent of J-Dub's chase down block against the Knicks. Turning into a Hart alley-oop on the other side. I think the ability to step up in those moments and it not just be Shai, but getting those contributions like Aaron Wiggins and Lu Dort, I think another very encouraging thing for this Thunder team. Just kind of curious, your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so 2 statistics that I have on my list to research tomorrow that I've not yet. So the eye test could be lying to me. So tomorrow I may go in the Discord and say, hey, y'all, I was so wrong on this. What the eye test tells me is 2 things. One, Shai is obviously not an elite 3-point shooter. That's no surprise. It feels like Shai hits his threes at a really good rate when it matters most. I don't know how I'm going to measure that when I do it. Clutch time is one metric, but it also could be during a flurry in the third, where it's big. It just seems like when the moment matters most, you can rely on Shai to hit a 3. The random second quarter with 7 minutes left, maybe not great, but the one he had, whenever you said MVP moment, I don't know if you're talking about the chase down block or that 3 on Drew Holiday.
That too.
Where it was the triple crossover, go to the left, jump back to the right, step back. It was unreal. It was hey, look, I can do this on offense. And then it was the chase down block. It just seems like he, when it matters most, can hit threes. And that's a huge development for his game.
Yeah.
It's something to date before this season. His 3-point shot, his statistics aside, I think this has been his most consistent year from 3 when it matters most, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And they're difficult looks too. Like he does the pull up, he does the step back. It's been great. That it's a whole new wrinkle for him as a player. He no longer has to do the midi, the fadeaway, the dribble back and to the turnaround. Like all of his game winners, if you go look back before the season, have been like the same kind of shot.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say, is like that makes him so much more difficult to guard down the stretch. If you don't know that he's either going to drive to the basket or hit a midi, now you have to watch out for the 3 too. That opens up a lot for Oklahoma City.
It does. The other stat that I want to look up, Lu Dort, again, I don't know how I'm going to measure this. Big game Lu, whether it's elimination games plus high leverage, I don't know how I'm going to measure it, but it seems like Lu, for as much grief as he gets as a 3-point shooter, when he plays against, like, I'm not saying he's like a playoff shooter, because there was times last year in the playoffs where it was like, bro, hit a 3. But like in the biggest of the biggest moments, it seems like Lu is always there to save the day. And today, like you said, 0 of 5.
Yep.
Like this was a game that the Thunder lose. We're sitting here talking about Lu Dort can't hit a shot.
Right. 0 of 5 from behind the arc to start and finishes 4 of 9. So we went 4 of 4 after that.
When it mattered most.
Yeah.
Lu in big moments just seems like it's on for him. And so all that to say, when you have a guy like Lu that hits in big moments, and you have a guy like Shai you can trust to now hit 3s in big moments, that's the kind of stuff that makes me feel like, okay, they were great in the regular season last year. The Thunder had some flaws in the playoffs. They addressed some of those with free agents acquisitions, but like the internal in-house guys that are developing to be better playoff players, you're starting to like see that firsthand now.
Yeah. And Isaiah Joe is another one that I think, we've talked about his shooting struggles this season and as of late, both the Knicks game and today, hit a big timely 3, right? Like showing up when the lights are the brightest is valuable. It's hard to measure, hard to quantify, but it's not nothing. I think Lu, though, Shai summed it up well in his post-game comments, talking about Lu just has a confidence about his game. He's always had that, and I think that was on full display on both ends of the floor. There was kind of a tussle at one point. Was it him and Jalen Brown, I think, that ended up in the first couple rows, and Lu came back down the floor, and I think hit another 3. Like after that's pretty incredible. His braids were hanging out, like he was disheveled, and he still had the composure to come down and hit a 3. That's an awesome development for this team, and I think that you said it well. Like going all the way back to the bubble, like Game 7 Lu in that Rockets series, you saw it. Yeah. He's been that guy for a long time. Yeah,
he's very, very good, and like. This is a much smaller sample than Lu and Shai in this regard. But if there's a stretch of games where you want a guy to step up, Aaron Wiggins, like his moment was against the Knicks, but he was also phenomenal in this game. It was earlier this time around.
Yeah, right.
We were like late in the third quarter, and Shai was the only guy outside of Aaron Wiggins in double figures. But Aaron Wiggins was in double figures.
Yep.
I don't think I've seen enough, again, like just what I see on Twitter is not the only praise out there, obviously, but I have not seen near enough Aaron Wiggins hype after this game as I should have. Like he was a reason that they were only down 10 or 8 or 6 in the second half early on versus 16 or 20,
Yep. He was awesome. He was 15 points in 20 minutes tonight, 6 of 9 from the floor, 3 of 6 from behind the arc. He was of the bench guys. He was a +2, which was second highest behind Jay Will, who was a +6.
He was also super impressive.
He was. Yes, he was. One other interesting stat that stood out to me, every single Thunder player that touched the floor tonight hit a 3-pointer, except for Isaiah Hartenstein. He was 0 of 1. He did get an attempt up.
He took
but every Thunder player hitting a 3, they shoot 42% from behind the arc compared to Boston's 19.6%. Clanking. Absolutely.
Which you cannot rely on happening again next time you see this team.
No, probably not going to go 9 of 46 every time you play Boston.
Yeah.
but you'll take it. But I do want to talk about something that may have influenced that and may have influenced the fact that Boston only scored 27 points on 20% shooting in the second half. The physicality of this team, a team which I feel like there's been a narrative that Oklahoma City is not tough. The toughness isn't there. I don't know if it's the post-game interviews, Draymond, that are causing some of that narrative. Like they're having too much fun, so they can't be tough. We heard it after the Knicks game. We heard it after the Timberwolves game. We heard it today after the Celtics game. Multiple Celtics players, but especially Jalen Brown, talking about the Thunder being aggressive and taking advantage of the whistle and the calls that weren't being made, and the Celtics didn't adjust their playing style. That sounds like cope to me, but the kernel of truth in that statement, the Thunder's aggressiveness, they're taking it to teams. When they're going into this like defensive goblin mode like they've gone to in the second half in the last few games, they're as aggressive as anybody in the league.
Yeah.
And I think it's really making it tough for that narrative to continue, that Oklahoma City is somehow soft or that they're a team whose toughness isn't playoff ready. Like this team looks physical every game out, so much so that you had Celtics fans saying it was 8-on-5 today, which is wild.
Well, I think like to address I know it was a joke, but the Draymond comment, he also called Zach Edey soft. And since Zach Edey has whooped him multiple times.
Yes, he has taken that personally.
He has. I am not saying that like fans of NBA teams all know what they're talking about, but the most consistent counter argument to Oklahoma City's incredible defense this year from other fan bases has been the only reason they're so good is because the refs let them get away with playing so physical, but not harming them by doing so by calling fouls. My response to that is like, if you think about the greatest teams or the greatest offenses, the greatest defenses in the history of the league, I even think about like Harden, when his entire narrative was he only can score 40 or 45 points any night because he gets to the line 18 to 20 times. Well, if the referees are going to allow him to play that way and get to the line, do you want him just to stop doing it because Twitter is telling him that it's lame? Or should he take full advantage and say, hey, look, I found a way to help my team win games? So I think Oklahoma City has identified a way to play defense that is ruled legal by the NBA. Why would they not play the way that they're playing? And you're starting to, like, I mentioned the fan bases have been talking about it. Now you're starting to see players kind of talk about it, where like Jalen Brown was saying they were playing at a super physical level and there wasn't a whistle. It's like, bro, it's kind of been that way all year.
Yep.
Like there's been many of the games where, yes, us that cover the Thunder also complain about the whistle and guys not getting, maybe there's something there where like the league is letting players play more physical. And when you go to the basket and you get hit, you're not getting a foul called. Oklahoma City's exploiting that in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think teams are finally starting to realize like, we got to step our crap up. They're not going to call fouls. We just got to change the way we're playing.
Yep.
And that, I think that's a testament to your point. This is not a soft team. They play tough.
They're very tough. And still, Boston shoots 24 free throws tonight to Oklahoma City's 13.
Yeah.
So even still, right? Like I don't disagree that the Thunder are being very aggressive, and there's times where they're playing defense in a way that is probably a foul that's not being called, and yet they're still not ever routinely winning the free throw battle.
At some point, Justin, we are 35 games in ish. You know, for not every team's like 35. If we're this far into the season and there's plays that are fouls that are not being called fouls, you know what that is? That's not a foul. So you either keep complaining or you change the way you play.
That's a great point.
You know?
Yep.
It's the way it is.
That's a great point. I thought today, without Chet, obviously, without Caruso, and without AJ,
The fact that we're saying without AJ speaks volumes.
It speaks volumes about AJ Mitchell.
It does.
But to take on a fully healthy Celtics team without those three players, when you could have had a built-in excuse had you lost, cough, cough, Memphis, but they didn't, and they took it to him. And I think that's, again, it's becoming a cliche at this point. But like, today's another great example where like Chet's dynamic on the floor today changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
That first half probably looks very different because Boston was getting whatever they wanted at the rim in the first half, right? We talked, the 3-point shooting numbers weren't good, but in that first half, they were getting bunnies left and right, getting very easy shots. Those shots don't look that easy if Chet Holmgren's on the floor.
Yeah.
Those looks probably don't come that easy if Alex Caruso is on the floor either.
Yeah.
And it's, again, like I said, it's becoming cliche, but we're 15 games into this streak now, and it's just not, it's hard not to think about the next evolution of this team when they're fully healthy. By the way, today marks 8 weeks since we were told we would get an update in 8 to 10 weeks on Chet's return to play protocol. So we were officially in the like 2-week window where we should be getting an update.
Yeah. And the update could be his return to play is in a month.
Yeah, right.
Like
that doesn't mean he's coming back tomorrow.
Yeah. I think it's important to note. The other thing, if we're talking about like Jaylen Brown kind of fell off in the second half, I thought arguably the most unguardable difference maker, making the biggest bucket in the biggest moment for the Celtics for the first 2-3 quarters was Porzingis.
Yes.
Where like Jaylen Brown, a lot of the shots he was making, it was like, all right, you've got ways to defend that. Some of the stuff Porzingis was doing, it was like, you just can't. He's 7'3". He makes Hartenstein look small. You saw it in the finals. He catches it on the elbow and he's unstoppable. And one school of thought is in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, the Celtics didn't go to Porzingis. Like that's on them. The other school of thought is Oklahoma City recognized that and were bumping him off his spot and playing defensively in a way where he couldn't get where he needed to go to get the ball and do his turnaround face up and make that shot.
Yep.
Maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention. I don't remember Porzingis being a guy that just like torched the team in the fourth quarter.
No, not at all.
In the first half, it felt like, how the heck do you contain this guy? And then they contained him.
Anytime they needed a basket, they went to Porzingis. And to your point, a play that popped into my head as you were talking, Porzingis was cutting across the lane. I think he got a screen. And as he came around the screen, J-Dub was right there. And you could tell he wasn't expecting J-Dub to be there. Yep. And he like threw his elbow out and they called an offensive foul. And I think that speaks to some of that adjustment that was made at halftime, like putting J-Dub in that position to come around the screen or switch off it, messed up their flow, right? They saw something in the first half. They got abused by it a little bit for 2 quarters, and then they adjusted. And I'm sure there are many more adjustments than just that. But that play kind of popped in my mind because it was a kind of a loud offensive foul when it happened. Porzingis looked pretty frustrated, and I think that's kind of the epitome of what this Thunder team does. They're pesky.
Yeah.
And the other play, similarly, I'm like feel like I'm flashing back through memories. The play in the Knicks game where Hartenstein like blitzed the screener before he could get set up. I think it was Josh Hart. He just goes like running full bore at the ball handler before they can even get the screen set up. And again, I think that was another like second half adjustment that this team made. That it's all 5 guys that are adjusting to what the offense is showing them. And it's a big reason why the second halves are looking so much different than the first.
It's like, just because like, I think the average basketball play or the person that watches basketball, like it's easy to say, oh, wow, that person contested that jumper or that was a contested layup. A lot of times good defense is the fact that the guy wasn't getting the jumper or getting the layup because he was being schemed against where he couldn't get open.
Right.
J-Dub, I think we can transition to him. I want to talk offensively about him. Before we do that, his defense, especially against bigs, is unreal. Like I know Kat had a big statistical night on Friday night in Oklahoma City, historically, J-Dub has been a lockdown defender on Cat. I think he did a great job on Cat, in fact.
Yep.
Even though he had a big statistical night. His ability, you mentioned Porzingis, that jumped off the page too, watching this game. The dude is 6'5". He's always on social media saying, bro, I'm 6'6". He is 6'5", 6'6". Give him 6'7", I don't care. Porzingis is 7'3".
7'3".
Cat is 7 foot 7'1" with 50 pounds. Like, the dude is so good. I think it's lower body strength. I think it's footwork. I think it's IQ. I think it's use of hands. It's his 7'2" wingspan. Like, he is such a good big defender. And then combine that with the fact that he's actually a point guard and can also guard your point guard. He can guard Jalen Brunson. He can guard Peyton Pritchard. He can guard Jason Tatum. Whoever you want, he can guard. I know he's getting a lot of flack for his offense and not being the secondary creator, and we can talk about that now. I think he deserves zero criticism because what he's doing on the other end, you're not winning these games against these incredible teams without what he's doing on that end.
Especially without Chet.
And like, some of the reason he might be struggling on offense, do you know how physically, like, it affects your body?
Right.
To have Karl Anthony Towns, for example, against the Knicks, or Porzingis just bodying you all freaking game. Like, if you and I did that, we're not NBA athletes, we'd be bruised and on the bench by the second quarter.
I'd be dead, buddy.
There's a multitude of reasons he may be struggling on offense. It could be some mental, it could be fatigue, but like, just like a lot of offensive players, I'm not going to name names, don't get slandered for playing horrible defense because they're exerting all their energy on offense. Why is J-Dub not getting the same level of like a pass when he's just exuding all this energy on defense, but is struggling a little bit on offense? I'll let you take it from there.
I think it's a really good point. And something that I actually brought up on the post-game show after the Knicks game is, like, I'm sure it's tough having to guard Cat on the other end and then come down and try to go get a basket, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's demanding. And I think today too, we talked about him on Porzingis, but he was also guarding Tatum out there. Like, that's not only is he guarding 7'3" Porzingis, but he's guarding Jason Tatum, one of the top guards in the NBA and probably one of the harder players to guard in the league. So there was no respite for him, right? Like, he's not taking any possessions off on the defensive end. I totally agree. I think J-Dub's versatility and being able to play 1 through 5 on defense is a huge reason of why the Thunder have a 15-game winning streak without Chet Holmgren. Otherwise, these matchups would be much easier for opponents to scheme against because the Thunder wouldn't have someone else that could play when Hartenstein was off the floor. Like, they don't have enough big bodies to match up well with a lot of these teams. But with J-Dub, it changes the dynamic. I also think that he lures some people into thinking they have a mismatch sometimes. Like, we definitely saw this with Cat in the first quarter of the Knicks game. He was hunting that mismatch. And it wasn't really working out for him when he was trying to hunt it because it's not actually a mismatch. He's not a guy that you want to try to back down because he can hold his own. He gets beat occasionally, as anybody would, and especially when you're giving up a foot of size. But he is very, very good on defense. I'm totally with you, Nick.
In the year 2025, we saw it a little bit with the Pelicans last year with Valanciunas. If you want to exploit that, and like maybe the opposing coach thinks, you know what? Let's back down J-Dub all game and shoot over the left shoulder, over the right shoulder hooks or like post shots.
Yeah.
In the modern NBA, that will not work because on the other end, threes are being had and
it's a trade-off.
It's a trade-off. So like Cat, if he wanted to, probably could have gone to J-Dub every single play. And they tried that for a short period. It's just not going to work long term.
Yep. It's a trade-off that it seems like the Thunder are very comfortable with if they need to be, right? If you want to feed Valanciunas or Nurkic or whoever and just let them go get 20 and 20, like, okay, that's probably not going to win you the game.
Yeah. Totally.
Any other big themes from this one, Nick? I think, again, it's tough to, there were a lot of great individual moments. There were a lot of great unique aspects to this game, but it does feel very similar to the last few games in just like what the Thunder have been able to put out there, the comebacks and the adjustments. They're doing it time and time again.
Yeah, I think the last takeaway, I don't really like talk about it per se, just like a comment. When you think about like the teams that can, like this, it's the Celtics league right now. When you win the title and you come back and you're still really good, it's your league. Like you have the target on their back. You're the team that other teams have to figure out, how do I get through them? The Celtics were like this juggernaut that had size, they had shooting, they had unreal defenders on the perimeter, and like multiple. It was like the joke was they sub out Drew and you got Derek White, and then you sub out Derek White and you got Jalen. Like it was like, and like now, not to say like Oklahoma City copied their style, but you think about what made Boston so great and so dominant and unbeatable in the postseason last year. And it's a lot of the same that Oklahoma City has.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, like, again, it was their first time playing. I would not be shocked if this was the first time all year that Joe Mazzulla and the individual members of the Celtics went out on the floor and they're like, good grief, this is what it feels like to play against us. You know, it's a tough style of play to go up against, man. Like it's relentless on both ends.
Yep.
I think that these two teams are built. I'm not saying like you go player to player and it's identical, but you think about the makeup of these teams, what makes them good. Archetype. It's very similar.
Yep. That's a great point. Very great point. It'll be interesting to watch. It should be fun. I believe Oklahoma City goes back up to Boston in March. I think it is. Should be a fun one on that return trip.
Just that does it. Memorized.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what it was is they kept advertising. They're doing a sweepstakes where you could win a trip to that game.
Oh, really?
Thinking, that'd be fun.
That would be fun. Boston's a cool place.
Boston is a cool place. That does it for our Boston, Oklahoma City recap. We're going to take a quick break, and we've got a lot more for you. Hang with us. And we're back. Nick, it's just you and I tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But I put together some trivia questions that I guess are just for you.
God.
So,
do I need a whiteboard, or am I good just to say it out loud?
That's up to you. You could probably just say it out loud.
Let's do it out loud. Okay. Save everyone from like sitting here watching me freaking write.
Well, anywho, the topic tonight is win streaks.
Okay.
Oklahoma City winning their record 15th straight game, franchise record. I want to ask you some questions that revolve around NBA win streaks and how this Thunder win streak stacks up. So, first question. Actually, hang on. I gotta do my job of Silva tonight as well. This is Prairie Trivia, by the way, brought to you by Prairie Artisan Ales. Our Prairie Trivia segment. You can play real life Prairie Trivia every Sunday at 4:30 at Prairie. We played a little bit of Prairie Trivia before the Memphis game last Sunday and had a blast. We were in 4th place out of like 15 teams before we had to leave to go to the arena. Just saying.
Solid.
Question number 1. This current winning streak Oklahoma City has of 15 games, where does that rank in the best, longest winning streaks in NBA history? 15 games ranks where in NBA history?
You're saying if there was a list of the longest, where are they on that
Correct.
list?
That is correct.
Oh, man.
How many teams have longer winning streaks?
How many teams or how many?
How many longer winning streaks exist?
Okay.
Yeah. Good clarification.
Let's go. 15's a lot. Let's go with 41.
41. A good guess? Not far off.
Oh, okay.
Not far off. The actual answer is 31.
Wow.
30 winning streaks longer than the Thunder's current winning streak of 15.
Wow.
We had some good.
I mean, that puts in perspective.
It does.
You said in the history of the league, right?
In the history of the league, every team, every season, ever. This is the 31st longest winning streak, and it's active.
Okay, and I know there's always hypotheticals and what if and whatnot. The Oklahoma City Thunder could have lost games on this 15-game stretch. If it weren't for a Fred VanVleet masterclass and a half-court heave from him, we're talking about 19 or 20.
Right. That's
nuts, man.
Nuts.
And guess what? Isaiah Hartenstein is the guy that has been unstoppable since his return.
Yep. It's fun. So, with that, of the 30 longest winning streaks in NBA history, how many have occurred in the last 10 seasons? Of the 30 longest winning streaks in NBA history, how many have occurred in the last 10 seasons?
At least one, because Cleveland. At least 2 or 3, because of Golden State the year that they were like 33-2 at this point. So mathematically, over the course of the entire history of the league, the number should be small.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's how this game's working out for us. Let's go 7.
7. That's also a good guess. Very close. We have some guesses in the chat, which are right on the money. It is 5.
Okay.
5 of the 30 longest streaks have occurred in the last 10 seasons. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet because I'm going to ask the next question builds on this yet again.
Okay.
Final question of Prairie Trivia. Of those 5 longest NBA winning streaks that have occurred in the last 10 seasons, how many of those teams won the NBA title that season?
4.
4. You said that with confidence and conviction.
I mean, if you're winning 15 games, like you are an elite at what you do.
I like it. I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to go one by one. We're going to tease this out.
Okay.
I'm going to go most recent to oldest in the last 10 seasons. Most recent, the 2022-23 Milwaukee Bucks won 16 games, no title.
Okay. That was the year after they won the title then, huh?
It was.
Or no, 2 years after. What year after? Yeah. Okay.
The 2021-22 Phoenix Suns won 18 games,
They did
no
not
title.
That
was the year after they made the finals.
Yeah.
And it was both of those were early in the season as well. The 2019-2020 Milwaukee Bucks won 18 games
before they won the title
and no title. The 2017-2018 Houston Rockets won 17 games, no title.
Yep.
And last but not least, the 2015-16 Warriors, like you mentioned, 24-game winning streak, made the finals.
No title.
And no title.
So what you're saying, and everyone in the chat, please flame Justin. What he's saying is this win streak means nothing. Thank you, Justin.
That's I'm just giving perspective. I'm just giving numbers.
Justin.
0 is the answer
Holy
to the
cow,
question.
man.
Isn't that nuts though? Because I was with you when I did not seek out these numbers with an agenda. I genuinely thought there would be some.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I wonder how many won the title. And then I was like, nope, no, also no. And then I was like, dang.
What's weird
That's not what I expected.
I know it's not the same because it's like the part of the season. It's not necessarily win streak related, but you have to have win streaks. I saw something that said teams that win, the Thunder only have 30, but teams that win 31 of their first 35 games have won the title 4 out of 5 times in the last X number of years.
That's a much better stat.
Yeah. Not the Thunder didn't do it, so they don't fall in that category.
Yet.
The Cavs do. But yeah, it's interesting.
That is interesting. Hopefully that you can turn around the chat because they are not happy with me at the moment. Listen, I didn't do it on purpose.
Brantley said, I haven't looked at the chat for a while. He said, I came here for copium, and Justin, you just ripped it out of him.
Someone called me a wet blanket. Anyway, that does our Prairie Trivia segment. Fun with winning streaks. Also, shout out Prairie. I'm currently drinking a Blue Buns treat.
Ooh.
One of my faves. So good.
Amazing.
Tastes like a blueberry muffin in beer form. So if you haven't yet, go check out Prairie Artisan Ales. We love them. They love us.
I've been drinking a
support
lot
them.
of, I don't have it with me right now. I, as you know, was like scrambling before the podcast, so I didn't have time to grab. I have probably like 30 or 40 Prairie beers in my fridge right now.
That's incredible.
Didn't have time to grab one. If we were on a group pod where like all of us were here, I could like sneak away and go get
Sneak
one. But
away.
two of us, it's hard. I've been drinking a lot of Blueberry Boyfriend, and it's really damn good.
It is good. That's another very good one.
Yeah.
They have a new variety pack too that's like their treat pack. Their treats are like, they're kind of like more intense flavored beers, treat like, if you will. It's got 4 different ones. It's got caramel apple treat, the blue buns treat like I just showed. It's got sticky Thai mango treat, and then peach cobbler treat, I think.
It's getting sticky.
Delightful. Call you Tyler the Creator.
Yes, sir.
Anywho, all right. That does it for Prairie Trivia. We're going to take another break, and we're going to talk about the upcoming schedule. Stick with us. And we're back. We've talked a lot about what the Thunder have done and are doing with their current win streak. We've also touched on this on recent podcasts, but this doesn't get easier. Oklahoma City was able to beat New York and Boston, 2 very tough games that have been circled on the calendar for a long time. The upcoming schedule, Nick. Wednesday, they head to Cleveland, which you just mentioned is like somehow keeping every bit of pace with the Thunder this season.
Most seasons, the Thunder would be like the team.
The team.
Not this year.
That game on Wednesday night in Cleveland should be another banger. Like we've had a lot of bangers in a row. Should be another one. Then they turn around Friday at the Knicks in MSG.
Yep.
Then they get to play the Wizards and the 76ers, which hopefully shouldn't be bangers, before returning home and playing Cleveland again.
Yeah.
And then Dallas. And then like a week later, they play Dallas again. And then they play Golden State. And then they play Sacramento. And then they play Milwaukee. And this stretch of a couple weeks here, about a month, but especially this next week, is brutal. We're going to learn a lot. We've learned a lot about this team. We're going to learn a lot. Would love to know from you, like, what about this upcoming stretch? Is there any game or any matchup that you are scared of from a Thunder standpoint?
Before I answer, I would like anyone in the chat that has time on their hands. I don't know the answer. How many times has there been 2 matchups in a less of a week stint where both teams were on 9+ game win streaks?
Yeah.
I don't know if ever.
Crazy.
Like the Thunder, and like that doesn't even include the Boston game. You're talking the Knicks and then Boston and then Cleveland.
And then the Knicks again.
Might, in theory, I know it's not like you can't ever say this is like how it is. Might, in theory, be the toughest stretch of games or the most competitive stretch of regular season games over a 3-game span in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you just don't have, like, the Knicks Thunder game was like, holy cow, this team's on a 13, this team's on a 9, and now you're going to get a team that's on a 10, on a 15. It doesn't happen often, and it's happening twice in the same week, sandwiched by the game that might be the freaking hardest in the middle, which is the Celtics, who didn't get any credit because they're not on the 10-game win streak. Anyway, someone look that up, please. I, for whatever reason of the upcoming schedule, I think they'll split the Cavs. I think that's just like going to happen. I know this is like beyond the upcoming week, and normally we talk about this upcoming week. The 2 Mavs games, despite being without Luka, and they're like really struggling right now, something about the Mavs and the PJ Washington scenario, and Najee Marshall's a great defender. Those are games that I think the average Thunder fan will go into and say, they don't got Luka. Thunder will be fine. Those are tough games, I think.
Yep, I agree. Can
They're
you
underrated.
imagine if somehow the Thunder get to that Dallas game without losing, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more games, beating Cleveland twice.
20.
Be it 20 games, you beat Cleveland twice, you beat the Knicks twice, you beat Boston,
They're
and
losing
then you lose to
Mavs now.
Dallas without Luka.
That's happening if they get to that point.
Don't you dare.
And I'll be in attendance because the first one's in Dallas, and I'm going to that one.
There you go. It is in Dallas on a Friday
You'll be
night.
at that
Should be
one.
fun.
Last time you were in Dallas for a Thunder game,
Yeah.
was right in the middle of the Josh Giddey stuff, and you had some fun fans around you. Thank
Yes,
God
I
those
did.
days are over.
Yes. 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 We also got to watch a 30-0 run by the Mavericks, which ended in a Thunder win, which was actually fun.
Yeah.
This upcoming stretch, though, I think if you had told me the New York, Boston, Cleveland, New York stretch, Thunder are going to go 2-2. I say sign me up. They're 2-0 right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm still saying sign me up for 2-2.
I think if you lose the next two,
If you lose the next two, you're playing with house money a little bit.
I have zero concern. I mean, you could obviously, if you lose by like 40
Sure.
and your team, like that's one thing. But like I don't think that if they lose the next two games, I'm thinking of this team differently.
Yeah, I agree. There's no shame in losing either of those games on the road to Cleveland or New York. There's no shame in that at all. I don't want that to happen. I don't, of course, I don't know that that'll happen. But I think it'll be a phenomenal test for this team coming up over the next few weeks.
Do you know when they go into that game against the Cavaliers? Is it Wednesday? Is that right?
Yes, Wednesday night. So they have 2 days off before they have to play that one, which is nice.
When they go into that game, here's a trivia question for you.
Mm.
How many days will it have been since their last loss?
Probably got to be pushing 25, 30.
49.
49. That's nuts.
Their last loss was December 1st. Maybe my math may be off. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't think that's right.
Is it 39? Is it
Yeah,
39?
39.
30 something. We don't do math in this podcast. If you guys have been
I
here
was told
around
there
for
would be no math.
a while. No, they've lost. They will have lost one game in a 49 game stretch entering that game. That's what it is.
It's nuts.
That one loss was the Rockets. November 20th was their last loss before the Rockets won. That's what it is.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank goodness the NBA Cup final doesn't count.
Seriously, like, can we take a second? For
Yes.
49 entering Wednesday, a 49-day stretch, this team's lost one game.
It's crazy. When I was doing the research for the winning streaks, the Cavaliers were obviously tied with the Thunder at 15 games, but they just tonight won their 10th game in a row. So they have a 15-game win streak and a 10-game win streak under their belts. The Thunder are not far off from that if you were to count the Milwaukee loss as a loss. They've won 10 straight since the Milwaukee game in the NBA Cup final.
Yeah.
And in a very similar boat.
The craziest part is it's going to be not a good or bad thing for the Thunder, but it's like perspective. They've won 30 of 35 games this season. That is a 85.7% win percentage, which is nuts. Over the course of an 82-game season, that's just over 70 wins. That 73 win Warriors team, I don't think like in the moment we've realized what we were witnessing.
Yeah.
That was stupid.
Stupid.
Unbelievable. If they carried out the same pace, they wouldn't even touch that record.
Right.
Unreal.
It's insane. It's insane. What's
It'd
also
still be
insane,
sick to win 70. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sign me up for that. The Thunder have 47 games remaining. And if they were to go 500, like God forbid, the Thunder go 500 the rest of the way, that's a 53.5 win total.
Yeah. They're going to beat 58.
Wasn't that their over under before the season?
Probably.
Or was it less than that?
Last year's 58, yeah?
Yeah.
57.
57.
They're going to be 57 this year.
At least.
Yeah. They're probably a 60 win team.
It's crazy.
And 60 sounds like an easy number. Holy cow, guys. That doesn't I think
Right.
preseason we did like a little segment on that where we talked about like the history of 60 win teams.
Yeah.
It's like the average is like not even one a season.
Yeah.
We might have two this year, which is like
Yeah.
the anomaly, but like
it is crazy.
it's nuts.
So, with that said, let's make some predictions. I don't have the updated standings, but I can tell you that I think you and I are in last.
Yeah, of course.
So, what I think that means is the other people aren't here. So, I don't think they get to make predictions, which means we get to
agree.
pad our stats and try to make up some ground.
I agree. And I
Jacob
think
always makes up rules, so I'm going to
Jacob's
do
at
it.
the top of the standings because he's a sunshine pumper and he always takes wins. And just so happens this team wins every freaking game. So, yeah, of course he's at the top. He's not rational. He's just sunshine pumping.
I tried to take some swings and pick some losses, and with a 15-game win streak, that's not gone well for me, Nick.
No.
But with the games on the upcoming schedule, they get more interesting. So we've got 3 games to make predictions for. First up, we're going to go at Cleveland. Nick, you said they split them. So are they winning on Wednesday in Cleveland?
I'm going to say yes. And I think it's primarily because the Cavs, I talked about it on last Sunday's show, their 3-point shooting just doesn't seem sustainable. And I think that just like Boston, to be clear, Boston missed some wide open threes that were just clankers they should have made. But a lot of the threes they missed were because of closeouts they had not seen from other teams this year and rotations they had not seen from other teams. I think the Cavs, this will be their toughest defensive test, obviously, the best defensive team in the league. Their 3-point shooting has been way higher than you could even expect to stay sustainable. And I think this will be a game where they go down to the mean.
I think that's fair. I am going to go against my better judgment and also pick a win in Cleveland. My head is telling me that this is the game to make up some ground, but I'm not going to do it, which means I'm probably going to pivot my strategy at the wrong time. I'm saying the Thunder win in Cleveland on Wednesday. Next up, Friday night in New York in MSG, where our guy Jacob will be in attendance as he makes a little East Coast road trip. The rematch from the dramatic Friday night game from this week.
They will be out for blood.
They will be out for blood, as they should. Will it be enough to draw blood?
I think that they lose that game to the Knicks on the road.
Okay.
I think that just like we talked about it being a first half of like figuring things out, not that like Tibbs is a better coach than Mark, but I think there will be some stuff that like the Knicks have some things they can do. They have no depth, but Tibbs is fine playing guys 40 minutes. Like their
very
core,
much so.
Their core 4 guys are freaking good.
Yeah.
Like really freaking good. I think that's a really tough game.
Yep. I think it's a very tough game too. The minutes breakdown and the scoring breakdown was wild. The one wild card, as the chat is pointing out, Cat is day-to-day right now with a knee injury. Brunson also technically day-to-day, but I think he's maybe more likely. If Cat can't play, I think that becomes even more of an uphill battle for the Knicks. They just don't have the bench production. Yeah. So again, as much as my head's like, yeah, they're going to be out for blood, they'll get their revenge. I don't think so. I'm picking a Thunder win in MSG on this one as well. I think that Oklahoma City, like the Boston game today, you mentioned it earlier. 2 very kind of like well-matched teams. Up and down, they match up very well. The Knicks, because of how Tibbs does his rotations, I think the depth of the Thunder will always give them at least a marginal advantage in that matchup, especially if there's any kind of injury concern for Cat. So I'm going with a win in MSG, which takes us to our final game of the week. Next Sunday at 5 p.m., they play the Washington Wizards. And we both have to make a Moneyball selection, and I'm guessing we both saved it for this one on purpose.
Yeah, we always try to get cute and do Moneyball for a game that no one else is going to do, because that's the only way people like us at the bottom can rise.
Right.
Given we're the only ones rising this week, because no one else is on the show.
Ah, yes.
No, I'm just kidding. We'll get their predictions offline. I'm going to go Moneyball win.
I'm going Moneyball win. So help me if they drop a game to the Washington Wizards. Someone in the chat saying Jordan Poole going to cook. So help me.
He probably will.
At what cost? Anything else, Nick, from this historic winning streak, from a dramatic comeback, from a wild week and a wild month of Thunder basketball? Any parting thoughts for our listeners?
I think you put some pretty good perspective on the magnitude of the win streak. Even if it's broken on Wednesday against the Cavs, like, what'd you say, 31 times in history, and how many times in the last 10 years? Five. What you're watching doesn't happen very often. And so enjoy it. And even if this team loses 2 in a row coming up, they're going to be 30-7. That is just fine.
Indeed. 30-7 will do. But hopefully it won't be that. And it'll be 32-5.
Yeah.
Because that's more fun.
Yeah.
And all without Chet. Ben put it in the chat. We have to say it. That's become our signature line. This team doesn't even have Chet yet. Just wait till they do. Well, thanks for jumping on with me tonight, Nick. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for hanging out with us. There are tons of you enjoying this crazy Celtics win with us. Appreciate all the comments. It was hard to keep up with them. There were so many, but I read as many of them as I could as they came through, with Nick and I doing the 2-man game. A little hard to put as many of them up on screen as usual, but we appreciate them all nonetheless. As I mentioned at the top, some fun games coming up. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the content that we've got coming your way. We're going to be with you each and every step of the way. We'll have you covered. So make sure to follow wherever you get your socials and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, and as always, Thunder up.